Here's the course, Diffusing Essential Oils, everything you ever wanted to know. I do hope we address everything you ever wanted to know. So why we're specifically offering a class on diffusing. So diffusing essential oils is like really popular, and it continues to grow in popularity. And certainly right now, with this just crazy pandemic that's affected the world, diffusing essential oils can actually be incredibly beneficial for our mental health. So, and then diffusing essential oils is often considered a doorway or an entry into the world of aromatherapy because it is a simple way of beginning to experience essential oils in one's environment. I often say, and I've always believed since my very, very early days, smelling, I believe essential oils, like just doing diffusion or inhalation, like awakens a part of our mind and a part of our memory to our deep, rich connection with plant-based aromatics. So, it has just a really powerful effect on many levels of our being, conscious or unconscious. So we are also offering this class because there's a lot of confusion around the aromatherapy community. There's a lot of different types of diffusers. And then there's just always this question of who to trust with information that you're looking for. Okay. So we're going to begin, we're going to get to like various phases of understanding diffusion, but the very first one is just what is it, right? So if we look just at the term diffusion, it's defined by Merriam-Webster as the state of being spread out or transmitted, especially by contact. Or it is the act of diffusing, which means to pour out or permit or cause to spread freely. So specifically to us as aromatherapist, diffusion refers to our ability to transmit essential oils into the environment. And it's usually within a specific range. It will cover 200 square feet, or it's just for one's personal space, or it's going to be able to do 800 square feet. So it's within a defined space. And of course, we diffuse for a specific goal or purpose. It's the reason we choose specific synergies or specific essential oils is because we want to accomplish something. Okay. So I do want to clarify the difference between diffusion and inhalation. So diffusion, as we just spoke about, it's actively transmitting. So diffusion implies an action, like an active diffusing the molecules into the environment. Okay, so the tools we have to actively diffuse include the nebulizer, the ultrasonic diffuser, candle or electric diffuser, and the fan diffuser. I mean, the fan diffuser we'll talk a little bit about in a moment. So, and then we have these passive diffusion methods. And passive diffusion means that the tool we're using does not actively release essential oil molecules into the air, right? It's more like, it's almost like, we've put it on a piece of clay and it's in our personal space, but it's the clay itself is not pushing the molecules into the environment. Same with like if you have a necklace. So this is one of the necklaces I got for myself when I was in Budapest, and it has this beautiful, it's a beautiful tree of life, and then it has a pad where you put your essential oils on. So again, it's not actively putting essential oils into the environment. So these are all called passive diffusion. Okay, so, you know, those we'll just kind of briefly go over. And then inhalation is different from diffusion. So inhalation is where we're actively inhaling. So inhalation is anything from a personal inhaler to smelling salts, putting a drop of essential oil on your palm and direct palm inhalation, or having a cotton ball or a steam inhalation. We're not going to be reviewing these types of diffusions, or really, I mean, it's not really diffusing, right? Because we're having to inhale to experience the benefits. However, when we review the benefits of diffusion, this is often many of the same benefits for inhalation. So I just wanted to make sure we're clear on what diffusion is versus what inhalation is, even though both, like whether we're diffusing, when we're diffusing a substance, we're breathing it in, and we're going to talk in a moment about its impact on the mind, and ditto for inhalation. Although, let's say steam inhalation specifically could be to decongest or to moisten the nasal passages. So its function and purpose is very different from the diffusing. Okay, we're going to focus our conversation today on active diffusion with a little insight into passive diffusion. All right. So the different types of active diffusion tools that we have access to. So the first one I like to talk about is the nebulizing diffuser. So the nebulizing diffuser, it is electronic, and basically it is designed in such a way, I mean, there's a very, very intricate piece of glass, the baffles inside this larger piece of glass. And what basically happens, this is like a fish tank pump, right? So it's designed to put air, like flow air through. So here we have, when we turn it on, the air forces the essential oil against the baffle, which turns it into a very like micro particles, which gets dispersed out through the top. So it's a very fine micro mist of essential oils only, which is different from like the ultrasonic diffuser. So we're getting these micro droplets of volatile components, or the essential oil, moving around the air, okay? This type of diffuser is very effective from the home into the clinical environment. It's probably a major disadvantage is they do tend to be the most expensive type of diffuser you can purchase. However, they're very effective. And in today's world, where our immune system's being compromised, or there's concern about just different viruses or whatever, we're, you know, heading into the flu season. I don't want to make any claims. That's why my voice is going, you know, I'm not saying we're using it to treat, but I'm certainly, as we'll go through in a moment, I'm saying this is a good time to be supporting our immune system, and also really addressing our stress response. And again, we're going to get into that. All right. So with the nebulizing diffuser, basically how you would use it is you put anywhere from 2 to 4 mils. You can put less, you can put 10 drops, you can put 20 drops. You know, you're going to have control over how long or how, you know, how much you're diffusing. So you put those drops into the glass basin, and then you basically turn the diffuser on. Now, some diffusers come with a timer. I have that here. Sorry, I should have had those out. So when I purchased this, the company that I purchased this particular diffuser from is no longer in business. So, but there's a lot of similar models, and we're going to give you a resource. But when I purchased that, they gave me this very handy dandy timer, so I could set it at different hours on and off. So you could get one of these, and I'll put it on our resource list. Or you could go old school and get like a, you know, just where you're diffusing it for the amount of time that you want. And so for a nebulizing diffuser, the recommended time is anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes, and then off for 1 to 4 hours, and then you can repeat 10 to 30 minutes. And we're going to talk about why that's a recommendation in a moment. So the ionized droplets will stay suspended in the air for, I don't know how long, but it will stay in the air for a while. And so we'll be breathing them in, all right, throughout this time. It doesn't mean they'll necessarily stay in the air for 1 to 4 hours, but it will be enough. So one thing to note about the nebulizing diffuser, this is the one that's most commonly used in healthcare facilities. I was a part of the San Diego hospice, which tragically had to close a few years ago. But when I was involved with the San Diego hospice, we used a nebulizing diffuser both in the ward itself, as well as in individual patient rooms when desired or needed. So it is the most common, mostly because it's the easiest to use. It doesn't use water. It's easy to control. And of course, there's no candle. And it's very effective. So you do want to note that there are different nebulizers on the market, so you always want to make sure you follow the instructions for the specific nebulizer you purchase. And we will be giving you some resources to look at for nebulizers, well, for all the diffusers. All right. Cleaning the nebulizer diffuser. So I'm going to kind of go to the end of this webinar at this point. I have recorded a series of webinars. It's kind of a bonus for this class. So yesterday I recorded cleaning my nebulizer diffuser. So you'll get that link either this afternoon or tomorrow morning, because I'm just finishing up the ebook. So anyhow, just here are the basic steps that you would do to clean the nebulizing diffuser. You basically remove this glass piece, you fill it with alcohol. It's best to use 70%, or rubbing alcohol is fine. That's just as effective. And I soak the glass pieces for like an hour or so, and then rinse under hot water, and then they're basically ready to use again. I also will, before removing the glass part, put alcohol into the base and run it for a few minutes, and that helps to clean all the little fine glass in the center. Okay. The next type of diffuser is what's called the ultrasonic diffuser. So ultrasonic basically means it's producing these ultrasonic waves or vibrations. And I was going to get my my other one. So let's see here. I just got these kind of, this is a glass ultrasonic diffuser. So you might be able to see it here. I was hoping that that centerpiece right in here is what's creating this ultrasonic wave and vibration, which essentially causes this dispersing of the essential oil and the water into these tiny particles and emitted out of the top as a fine mist. So it's a cool mist, and it does contain water, obviously, in microparticles along with the essential oil, but it's not like a mist, like a steam. So you're not getting like these steam inhalations using an ultrasonic diffuser. So steam implies heat. That's why we call it a mist. It's a cool mist, which could slightly humidify the air. I wouldn't rely on it if you need humidifier in your space or environment. I would get a humidifier. So this just does not emit enough mist to cause the room to become more humid. So, or more moist. Okay. How to use them. You basically, you know, each one, there's so many different ones on the market. I think I got this one from, I might have gotten this online. I'm not I can't remember what the company was. Anyhow, it'll be on our resource list. But basically, you remove the cover, and usually there's another cover on top that's causing, you know, that's creating where the steam is going to be directed. So you remove that. A lot of these companies now are giving you this little cup that measures the water. And so then you fill it with water, you put your essential oil drops or Synergy into it. And it's anywhere from 10 to 15 drops. You could go down to 5. I mean, it really depends on the essential oil, but 10 to 15 is good. And there is always a marker, and all of the ultrasonics will have like a ledge or a dot, a red dot to show you where to fill the water to. So you water your essential oils, you put the lids back on, you put the design thing back on, and then you plug it in and it starts, you know, you can set a timer. Some of them come with timers these days. This particular model just has an on or off button. So again, you can go back to getting a timer, using an old school timer, setting your phone with a timer. So lots of different ways to time. With the ultrasonic diffuser, the diffusion time can be a little bit more than the nebulizing diffuser. So we've gone to 30 to 60 minutes, then turn it off, wait 1 to 4 hours, and repeat as desired. And again, like the nebulizing diffuser, you want to make sure you follow the directions that are specific to the diffuser, the ultrasonic diffuser you've purchased, because they're all incredibly different. This is another one. I've been a little bit of a diffuser junkie lately. So this was another one. This was very expensive. I actually thought it was a nebulizing diffuser, but it's actually an ultrasonic diffuser, and same thing, it works. You know, it's got the little ultrasonic piece in the middle there that's going to cause that motion. And then again, same thing. This is like, I don't know, I think this was like $100. It's a lot for an ultrasonic diffuser, but it's very fancy and classy looking, I guess. Okay. All right. Some of them have LED lights. You know, they're coming up with so many incredible designs now. One of the things I want to offer up, because at the end we're going to talk about, are they safe for infants or children? So if you have any concerns or you have a very sensitive child, one of the things you could do is diffuse hydrosols instead of essential oils. And it would be in the ultrasonic diffuser, which by its nature has a water component to it. This is where introducing hydrosols into diffusing can be really amazing, actually. So I think that's all really. I mean, you can add all of it as a hydrosol if you've distilled your own and you have a lot of hydrosol hanging around, which I always do, so I use my own. But if you've purchased hydrosols, they can be expensive. Just add them like 50-50. So do 50% water, 50% hydrosol, and you can, you know, scoot that on down to 5%, you know, like figure out what seems to work best for you or for your child or for a young infant. So, but we're going to get more into that. All right, cleaning your ultrasonic diffuser. As I said, we do have some videos on, we'll be sharing the link on our Vimeo channel specific to diffusion. But basically, you can remove the pieces that you can remove. You can wash in warm soapy water. Just make sure you dry them thoroughly. And then wipe them out with the alcohol or the rubbing alcohol, and then it's ready to use. The base, you know, you don't want to get the base, like you wouldn't want to put the base all the way into water. So what you can do, however, is, you know, you can fill this with water, obviously, and kind of wipe it out and wipe around it, spray around it, spray inside, wipe it out with paper towels. Paper towels are really becoming my best friend. So it's useful to have paper towels to wipe things out and sterilize. I just am a very big proponent of sterilizing and cleaning things out. And then it also really helps to remove any of the aroma that may be left there, or the alcohol also helps if any of the essential oils become resinous or sticky and it's not coming out. The alcohol, if you let it sit there for a minute, will help it to thin enough you can just wipe any of that out. Okay. So with the candle diffuser or the electric diffuser, so the electric diffuser also heats the water. So it's been a while since I've seen an electric diffuser, but I love this candle diffuser. This was a piece of pottery that was made for me by a student in Seattle when I was teaching there. And so with the candle diffuser, basically you fill the basin, the top basin, and some have like removable basins that, you know, that you can take out and put back on, obviously, but you basically fill it with water, and it's not very much, maybe an eighth to a quarter cup. And then you put your drops of essential oil or synergy into the water. You light the candle, and of course, through the heat, this is where you get like steam, right? A little kind of steam versus a mist. So we get a little steam coming up, which is also going to be releasing the aromatics. All right. I personally find with candle diffusers, they're really about, you know, creating a nice space for oneself to create either a ritual or some type of, you know, like nurturing environment for oneself. They're not necessarily things you would necessarily anyways use daily, although you can, because it is one of the most inexpensive ways of diffusing essential oils. And same with the electric, it works on the same idea. It has an electric heating unit below, and so it's heating the water and the essential oils, and they're diffusing into the environment as a kind of a fine steam versus a mist. All right. And here we go up again for the amount of time one could use it. So you could use it up to 60 to 90 minutes and then off for 2 to 4 hours and then re-experience. And the reason for the difference between each of these, between the nebulizer, the ultrasonic, and then these candle or electric, is that you're really getting much lower dosages of the essential oil into the environment with each method, you know, with the nebulizer being the most potent, which is why it has a shorter time frame. Okay. And then just a safety note, obviously, if you're using a candle diffuser and you have young children or not, just don't leave the candle unattended when it's in use. So, okay. how to clean the candle or electric diffuser. Basically, you know, you can, like this piece of pottery, I can just rinse the whole thing with soapy water and let it dry. If there's resin, which there was a few days ago, quite a bit of resin buildup because I hadn't cleaned it in a while, you can just use the 70% alcohol or rubbing alcohol, soak it in, and then rub it out. And any of the resin or sticky stuff that can build up will just come right off. If you don't have any alcohol, you don't have rubbing alcohol, you can also try lemongrass. Believe it or not, lemongrass, just a couple of drops, also helps to break off that resin, and you can just wipe it up and then wash it to get the lemongrass off. Okay, and then sterilize and it's ready to use. Okay. I'm going to get to your questions. I do see that there's a few that have come up. One of the next ones is the Fan Diffuser. This is a little bit different. It's not really getting aromatic molecules into the environment, right? Because the way a fan diffuser works is that you're placing a certain number of drops on a pad, and then you're putting that pad into the unit, and a fan is blowing air through that pad, and it's really the aroma that's being released versus micro droplets of essential oil or mist or steam. It's the aroma. So there are aromatic molecules, obviously, because in order for us to smell, there has to be a molecule, a scent molecule. But it's a little bit less active, if I could say. If I were to say anytime I would use the fan diffuser, it really would be for the express purpose of the aromatics versus like antimicrobial activity or an intense effect on the nervous system. So, all right. And then there are other ways to diffuse, so to speak, essential oils into the environment. The use of an aromatic spritzer or even a hydrosol in a way is diffusing, right? You're dispersing essential oils into the environment when you spritz. Years ago, when I first moved back from England, I didn't have a penny in my pocket and I couldn't afford a diffuser. So one of the ways I would diffuse in my home was to just boil some water and put essential oils in it and move it around my home. So, you know, and that was a really effective way of for me, diffusing essential oils at home when I didn't have any other way to do it at the time. So, and then you can also use them in humidifiers, but you should know not all humidifiers work with essential oils. Some humidifiers are actually being designed where it has a space you can put essential oils into it. So we're not really going to spend any more time on those, but they are ways of actively getting essential oils into the air. All right. And then with passive diffusion, so again, these are just, we're not going to get so heavily into these, but these are, you know, where whatever we're using isn't actively diffusing or putting aromatics out into the air. However, by having aromatics, it's almost like perfume, really. By having aromatics on us, we are in the presence of the aromatics. So it's diffusing and we're inhaling and receiving many of its benefits, but it's not the same as active diffusion, where it has something that's pushing it into the environment. Okay, and you can be real creative, you know, like if you can't bring anything at work, you could just have like a little felt pad. I recently brought home, let me see, of course, when I'm looking for them, I won't be able to find them. Oh, here they are. share one of my little craft things with you. So we could use them on, you know, like this is a felt doll. Isn't it cute? I made this for my son years ago when he was at Waldorf school. So, do you know, I could put a drop here and leave it just on the table, you know? So I love these dolls. So anyhow, so the point being, this would be passive diffusion, where you put 1 drop of lavender or 2 drops of lavender, or maybe on the hair, or spritz some hydrosol, and so, and then just set that on your table, and you have passive diffusion. You know, I do include the plug-in diffuser here, even though there's heat involved with the plug-in diffuser. To me, it's they're never very, very strong. Yeah, so to me, well, they couldn't be strong if you, depending on what's being put in it, you know, but I do think they're a little bit more passive. And then I put the reed diffuser down on the bottom. I'm not a big proponent of reed diffusers. It's such a waste of essential oils, in my personal opinion. It's far better to use something like the plug-in, or, you know, a glazed terracotta or an aromatic spritzer than the reed diffuser. So that's just my personal opinion. If you love reed diffusers, that's great too. But anyhow, so that's passive diffusion. All right. As I said earlier, we were going to address why there's time frames for diffusing. So the main 2 reasons are, 1, adaptation and habituation. So after such a period of time, the sense of smell adapts to the odor in the environment, and then it no longer perceives it, right? So you can become actually habituated. So adaptation is like, I'm sitting here, I've turned the diffuser on, it's got citrus oils in it, and I'm smelling it and I'm loving it. But then it's like, maybe if I kept it running for 30 minutes, my nose would have stopped smelling it, even though it's still being emitted into the environment. My nose and my sense of smell have adapted to that aroma. Okay, this is why in aromatherapy practice and massage, sometimes we have layering of different aromas to kind of reignite the awareness of the aroma within the environment. Okay, so we could use different oils on the back than we did on the face or the neck and shoulders, or we could put a different essential oil under the face cradle. So I'm sure you understand what I mean. So we're building a smellscape, but in layers, to keep the sense of smell smelling what's being emitted, basically. Then there's habituation, and habituation is just a decrease. Like, a habituation is best explained like our home, right? In our home, we have habituated to what our home smells like. So if people come into our home and they're like, oh my God, it smells so great in here, and you're like, you're not smelling it. It's because you have habituated to how your home smells. And most of us don't get the opportunity to know what our home smells like unless we go away for a few days and come back. You know, I'm always reminded of this story years and years ago when I lived in Seattle, Washington. My friend Tashan came to visit me, and she was like, oh my God, Jade, your house smells like wet dog. And I was horrified, you know, because I couldn't smell it. And so I had become habituated, and it's easy for wet dog to linger in Seattle, right? It's when I was living there anyways, we got lots and lots of rain. So my dogs were often wet. Anyhow, the point being That's what it means when we habituate to a certain smell. So most likely with diffusion, we're really talking about adaptation. So we simply stop registering the aroma in the air. The other thing with diffusing, if we diffuse too long, and it's not just necessarily over diffusing, but if we diffuse too long, the nervous system can actually begin to react in the opposite direction. And so a story that was told to me years ago while I was working with the San Diego hospice, the kind of lead woman there at the time, she shared this story with me. She was diffusing for a patient who had been quite agitated. So she designed, kind of customized a blend for him and went and set it all up in his room, and, you know, all with the appropriate forms and documents, of course. And so she set it up in her room, and she got called away, and she had meant to return within 10 to 15 minutes, but she was unable to return, and I believe it was anywhere from 30 to 60 minutes later. Actually, I'm sorry, I need to back up. So she returned once. He's enjoying the aroma, calmed, soothed, less anxiety. She's then called away. Sorry, it's been a long time. That was like 25 years ago with San Diego Hospice. She's called away. She doesn't come back for another 30 to 60 minutes. She comes back in, and the patient is very agitated, even more agitated than he was before they began. And what she realized is the diffuser had been on continuously, probably for an hour. So this is very unnecessary. And for some people, and I've even noticed it, if you're diffusing essential oils that are to help clear congestion, but you overdo it, you can actually begin to feel more congested. Okay, so we don't need to diffuse, especially with the nebulizing diffuser. I mean, diffusing for an hour would be costly anyways, you know, because it does diffuse a fair amount because you're just diffusing the essential oil. So beyond cost, though, is this impact on the nervous system. And then if it's just too much, you can actually begin to get irritable, you can get a headache, have difficulty concentrating, maybe feel lightheaded, and you're either sedated, kind of sleepy, lethargic, or you're overstimulated, agitated, and irritable. Okay, so you don't need to continuously diffuse into your environment, is the point. And it's possible for the respiratory system to be irritated, you know, to just be constantly. I would say that's probably less likely to happen unless you are sitting, you know, right up close. But it's possible that the eyes could become irritated, or the nasal mucosa, mostly in the upper respiratory tract, could become irritated. There could be a sensation of tingling or burning. I would say this is less likely than the nervous system response. Again, unless you're really close and up, you know, in the diffusion itself, those are less likely to occur, but a possibility. All right, so this is why there's differing time frames. Okay. All right, I'm just going to pause and see if I can answer. See if I can. Oh, no, I'll just wait to answer questions at the end. All right, so why do we even want to be diffusing essential oils beyond that it's an amazing entry into the world of aromatics and aromatherapy and essential oils? The core reasons we would want to diffuse, or the core, the core reasons we want to diffuse is to support emotional well-being, to support immunity and general wellness, and then to support the respiratory health, or the health of the respiratory system. Diffusion, which I'm going to say in a moment as well. Diffusion isn't really a very specific method of application for respiratory issues. It would play more of a supportive role in other forms of treatment, such as a steam inhalation or direct inhalation or salve, or if you're trained in internal use, or suppositories. So there's a lot of different ways we would address actual issues with the respiratory system. I did read years ago a case study. It was with Dr. Penwell in one of his books, where a woman with deep lung congestion, he did nebulizing inula graveolens, which I do, it is incredibly helpful actually to nebulize this and to do this. And he sat the client in front of the nebulizer, and she did both in the nose and in the mouth to get in completely into the lung tissue, causing this incredible expectoration of old congested mucus. Now, they'd only do that for 2 to 3 minutes. You maybe take 5 to 10 breaths like that and then stop. So it's not a continual thing. So I have seen the nebulizing and read and actually done it myself when I was experiencing bronchitis. So it can be helpful, but it's not really the main way or method that we would use as aromatherapist to treat respiratory issues. Okay. So going back, however, so for emotional well-being, so we're going to talk about just our sense of smell. So aromatics go directly into a part of the brain known as the limbic system. And specifically, olfaction is one synapse away from the amygdala. And the amygdala is a part of the brain responsible for coloring our experiences with emotion. So, and the amygdala is attached to the hippocampus, where there'll be memory, and the amygdala is also attached to the hypothalamus, and the hypothalamus or the impact through the amygdala onto the hypothalamus is why aromatics have such a profound body-wide effect. So both on the mind and our emotions and our physical level of tension. We're going to talk about all the potential benefits. So we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty of the limbic system, but it's important to understand it's an emotional part of our brain. It does have an impact on the endocrine system, on the nervous system, and on immunity. So body-wide, system-wide, mental wide effects that aromatics have just through inhalation. So I did want to put this insight. This has more to do when we're doing inhalation, although you can walk around your house when you're diffusing, sniffing. So sniffing sends the airflow more to our upper sinuses and increases our perception of aroma. And that's because inside of our nose, there's kind of this upper portion is the olfactory portion, and the rest of it is what we call the respiratory portion, and the tissue is slightly different. So sniffing helps our perception of aroma. The core impact of aromatics we're introducing them through the sense of smell, is that they help to reduce the impact of stress, thereby supporting the building of resilience, which is a really hot topic right now. and something I believe essential oils can really benefit us. Okay. So here we have a little diagram about stress, and here's now what's happening. So when we're under stress, all of these things can be happening. There can be an increase in heart rate, in blood pressure. We might start an increase in our breathing rate, depending on if it's an acute stressor or a chronic stressor. You know, and breathing in aromatics can help decrease all of that. We're going to get to the aromatics in a moment, actually. So stress can inhibit digestion. So it actually can slow down the digestive process, with chronic stress actually potentially leading anywhere from peptic ulcers to a wide range of other digestive disorders. Stress also inhibits growth and reproduction. So both physiologically and psych emotion, just having a libido or sex drive can be diminished. So it can also curtail a growth and tissue repair. So slow healing wounds, some of that beyond nutrition, of course, could be the degree of stress one is under. A decrease in sexual drive, I just mentioned. And then inhibit immunity. When we're under a lot of stress, we are more vulnerable to infectious diseases. So this is like really important, right? Right now, we're all under potentially acute stressors and certainly potentially chronic stress. So diffusing is going to be quite beneficial. Stress also blunts pain perception. So you can have what is called acute stress analgesia. This would be like, you know, war. I just immediately think about my father, and it's not a good story, so I won't actually share it. But basically, you know, during war, you can have an experience where you're not aware yet that you have been, say, shot, because you're under such an incredible amount of stress. So it can cause this stress analgesia. So, and then loss of cognitive and sensory skills, right? We can get like, I know when I'm under a lot of stress, I'm lucky I remember my partner's name, my husband's name. You know, I'm lucky I remember sometimes like the woman I work with every single day, Lindsay, lab, you know, it'll go out the window. So acute and chronic stress can affect our cognitive abilities, including our memory. Okay, and this is where diffusion can play a role. So some of the conditions that can be caused by or made worse by stress include this host of conditions, you know, many of which we experience at different times in our life. So, and I'm focusing on stress. I'm not going to read this entire quote. You will receive the PowerPoint presentation. This is a quote by Aviva Ram. And what she's basically saying is that we often overlook the impact of stress and just how many stress-related diseases could potentially be handled by simply becoming more aware of and working with the stress and the stress response. All right. Okay. If you didn't get a chance to read all of that, you'll get the slideshow. All right. And this is where our sense of smell can come into play. Years and years ago, when I was living in Seattle, I was interviewed by NPR. And I remember one of the things we had been discussing, they had already done some interviews with different people in the area and some specialists. And one of the comments I remember being made was that, particularly in the Western world, um, that there's not so many aromatics in our environment, which would be different, say, like if you went to Morocco and went to a market, the aromas being emitted everywhere and cooking different foods and different ethnicities. The cooking is always very fragrant, um, lots of spices and herbs. Whereas let me focus specifically here, since I'm an American, the American diet, and during that talk, she was basically saying in the Western world, that we don't do that as much anymore. And so, we maybe have lost a connection with having so much aroma in our natural, plant-derived aromas into our environment. And again, this is one of the reasons I think aromatherapy is becoming so popular. It's because we want that. We want our space to smell beautiful, or, plant-based aromatics for sure. So when we're working with the sense of smell, sorry, that was an aside there. When we're working with our sense of smell, these are all the possibilities we have, that it has the ability to have an effect on. So we can reduce and alleviate stress and anxiety, alter pain perception. When something's being diffused in the environment, it alters our perception. And if you've ever attended an aromatherapy class, you know this to be true. The second you start passing around an aromatic and an essential oil, boom, the perception of the class alters, and we get a lot of talking going on because the perception has altered. Oh, we're in a class too. Oh, okay, I feel free. I want to share. This is, I want to share my experience of interacting with this aromatic. And so same thing with pain. When we're diffusing, if we're in it depends on the type of pain, but pain, and we're diffusing an aromatic, it can alter the pain perception enough to make it appear that the pain has been reduced, or to reduce the pain level. All right. We can help with sleep patterns, increase alertness. My son's just gone back to school, so diffusing things like rosemary and basil, chemotype linalool, and bay laurel are really beneficial to him as he's studying. Diffusing essential oils can help our appetite, so it could potentially play a supportive role in weight control or weight loss. Sleeping patterns, I believe I just addressed. It can just affect our general mood, increase our overall emotional or feelings of emotional well-being. It's a useful stress management tool because it affects positively the autonomic nervous system, can ease physical ailments. So just simply through addressing stress, like we were just talking about, we could alleviate tension and digestion, which could alleviate excess gas, or even constipation. That's more emotion, stress related than diet related. And then, of course, it helps shape the impression of ourselves and others. This is why, part of staging a home these days is to be diffusing coffee into the environment to alter the perception of the environment people are walking into. Same in our home. I always appreciate, I've had different workers come into our home over the years, be it an electrician or a vent cleaner, and I see their face come in and they're like, take a deep inhalation and just like, oh my God, it smells amazing in here. I've even had some that have come back for repeated visits, and he's like, oh, I told my wife about how amazing your home smells. It's depending on how you want your home to smell, you can diffuse essential oils to create a really inviting space for people to come into. Now, granted, I wasn't necessarily diffusing. It was just, you know, I have aromatics throughout my home, and so they were just smelling that. But, you know, you can also be actively diffusing. I wanted to put this in just as a reference. So this was from an article published in the International Journal of Aromatherapy years ago that was showing some kind of research on the potential impact aromatics have through smelling, through, you know, inhaling, not inhaling as in like the difference between diffusion and inhalation, but inhaling as breathing in can have a system and body wide. So this complements basically what we've been talking about. Okay. And then, like I have already mentioned, we can support respiratory health. I certainly diffuse eucalyptus and lemon and laurel and tea tree and other essential oils, green myrtle, that have a strong affinity to the respiratory system. But as I mentioned earlier, it's not really about treating respiratory conditions so much as simply supporting respiratory health. Would be, unless of course you're using it in a clinical application, which, you know, use wisely and knowledgeably. Okay. Diffusing also helps support immune health, and it works two different ways. One, of course, particularly with the nebulizing diffuser. The nebulizing diffuser is probably the most efficient as an airborne antimicrobial diffuser. So it is the one I most recommend if this is your goal. So it can help eliminate pathogens from the air, right? You're emitting concentrated essential oils with antimicrobial activity. So by eliminating potential microbes, we're supporting the immune system. And then the other one was what we've just talked about, simply by reducing the impact of stress, building resiliency, providing tools for coping with stress, all have a positive impact on our immune system. So this may be called the feel-good factor, just anything that helps us to feel good, better, uplifted, can help have a positive effect on immunity. Okay, we're almost there. So which essential oils are best to diffuse? There's actually quite a lot of essential oils you can diffuse. There's far shorter list of ones you should not diffuse. You know, like I wouldn't diffuse birch. I wouldn't diffuse cinnamon bark. And there's probably a few others. We'll get to that list. But for the most part, for the mild essential oils, which make up the largest group of essential oils under any type of safety category, there's quite a big range you can select from. If you're not sure, if it's not on this list, and there's 2 pages of it, learn about it, because this covers quite a lot of the common essential oils. But if there's one you're wanting to use but you're not sure of, explore it. Make sure it doesn't have toxic, you know, neurotoxic components such as camphor, or at least camphor in as a high percentage of its chemical makeup. But otherwise, yeah, we have quite a lot of essential oils we could potentially diffuse, which then means it's kind of a little overwhelming on figuring out what to make, right? Especially if we're not trained in aromatherapy. So I like to narrow down into palettes. So these are different palettes that I have. this is from our Botanical Body Care Products course, but equally relevant to diffusing. So if you're going for a foresty aroma to be, in your environment, these are some of the essential oils. Most of them. I mean, there's certainly, spruce, hemlock is another one I could have added. So, this would be if you want a forest, like a forest walk or forest bathing, but in your home, you can diffuse any of these or in a combination. We have the citrus palette, same thing. Citruses, all of these can uplift while at the same time soothing and reducing anxiety. So I would say almost all of them have clinical studies showing, or at least be it with animals or humans, that they help to reduce levels of anxiety. So reducing the stress response, reducing anxiety. But yeah, okay, so great. Uplifting. Mandarin, I like to say, is really kind of this childish joy, right? There's something childlike about using a mandarin. So if you're feeling just kind of like, you want that kind of fresh perception of the world, diffusing mandarin can be really beautiful. I have a particular fondness, like mandarin and lavender are really nice to diffuse. Then we have the spice palette. If it's not on here, it means I don't think it can be diffused. So one of them I didn't leave on the spice palette is turmeric. So turmeric, I don't see the purpose in diffusing turmeric. Maybe like the aroma, possibly, but it's just not a big one I would find myself diffusing. But these, yes, for sure. The floral palette, these you want to be careful with. You're dancing with florals because they can get really these like geranium. If you use too much, for sure, you can get headaches or just nausea, feelings of, same with the ylang ylang. And these are the most expensive. So if you're really wanting to use florals, this might be where you use hydrosols in the ultrasonic diffuser. Okay. All right. There's a number of questions, and we are going to get to that. I want to see. So we only have a few more slides before we get to questions. So this first one is creating your own stock. So with all of the methods of diffusion, you're either going to use a single essential oil. I'm going to put lemon on my diffuser, or I'm going to put lemon on my necklace, or mandarin, or you can purchase a synergy. Usually they'll be like Aphrodite or enhance love or fresh breath, or they'll just be all, I'm terrible at names. It's definitely not where my creative energies flow, but you'll see different synergies, sweet dreams, things like that. But if you ever want to make your own, so this is how this, quite blending has always been an area I've specialized in. And so how we choose our 3 to 5 essential oils, we choose in this model, we choose a core, an enhancer, and a harmonizer. So so your core is like the main essential oil for, be it its therapeutic properties or its aroma. Say you want, an essential oil to be diffusing an essential oil that's sedative. So you want a good sedative essential oil, let's say lavender. You want to enhance, so you want a sedative and you want to enhance that with just a general feeling of calm. Your enhancer could be mandarin, or it could be coriander seed. And then the harmonizer often has a decisive impact on the overall aroma of the synergy. So let's say we have lavender coriander seed. We're going to harmonize it with mandarin or sweet orange or blood orange to kind of harmonize the aroma to be this beautiful, sweet, floral, yet also a touch of citrus aroma. Okay, so this is how you would choose the 3 to 5. I mean, typically I recommend just staying with 3. Once you've chosen them, before you've blended them, you take the caps off and make sure they're going to smell good together. And then how many drops of each, what I like to do, let's say I'm going for 15 drops. This one's the strongest. This is the next strongest. This is the least strong. What that means, I can put more drops of the least strong and less drops of the most strong to get a balance. Okay, so it might be instead of 5, 5, and 5, it might be 7, 6, and 3. Do you know? So you want to kind of, blending is about playing with the oils, and you know, you might do it exactly, even mathematically, but maybe just one more drop of that oil changes it to what you want it to be. So hopefully that makes sense. So you're basically choosing your oils with a specific, let's say, intention, goal, or purpose, but we're not treating, you know, we're not treating varicose veins or bronchitis or, you know, a plethora of conditions we are prone to as human beings. We're really focusing here again on the psychology, on reducing stress. So all of your core, enhance, and harmonizing should kind of be in that area, or be for respiratory wellness or calming or stimulating, relieving anxiety, you know, around these kind of common themes that diffusion would evoke. Okay, so this was an example. The forest walk, I chose Scots pine as my core essential oil, balsam fir to enhance the pine, and black harmonize to round out the aroma of the two, as well as, of course, to evoke the forest aroma. If you make a stock bottle, you can make them in 5, 10, or 30 ml. Do you know, for home use, these are good sizes to consider. You can get a European dropper. A lot of stores sell them, or online. And so a ml is approximately 20 to 30 drops. And yes, it's that big of a little window there, because it all really depends on the size the orifice reducer the company you've purchased from is using. So if it's really large and these drops come pouring out, it might be 20 drops per mil. And if it's a small, like the really good European droppers, you'll be lucky you can get a drop, first of all, but you know, could go up to 30 drops per mil. You could also get, you know, these cone cylinder measuring glass. So then, like, this one is 5 for 5 mils. So then I could really know for sure, if I'm making 5 mils, how much of each oil I'm putting in. At that point, I'd be measuring by mils. So having this is a lot easier than counting a lot of drops, particularly if you're going to do like 30 or 10 mils. That's a lot of drops. Okay, and it's just the essential oil, no vegetable oil. So label it as a synergy stock. The term synergy implies a combination of essential oils without a carrier. So the term synergy tends to imply, when it's in relation to a product, a combination of essential oils without a carrier oil or some other type of base, okay? A blend as a product implies that it's in some type of carrier oil. And the Synergy stock bottle, say you know, in winter, I make myself the respiratory, the same thing I use in my salve, my respiratory salve. I make a stock bottle to diffuse or to use in a steam inhalation or to put a drop or two in the shower on the floor to do kind of a shower steam. So I always have a stock bottle, particularly in the autumn and winter months. So it's a good idea. That way you're not always like having to put individual drops of the different oils you're using. You're ready. You've got your Synergy. Or if you have one that a combination of 3 oils that you just find absolutely relaxes you, make a stock bottle, have it ready to go. You could add it to bath salts. You can add it to to your diffusers. You can add it to a massage oil. That's the great thing about having a Synergy stock bottle, is it has multiple applications. Okay. Finally, everyone wants to know, like, the safety stuff. So are there concerns with diffusing essential oils? There are. We're going to go through different levels, but the first one is that it is entirely possible to over diffuse. I would find it personally hard to do, but it is possible if someone kept it just diffusing all day long, which is so unnecessary and expensive and a waste of plant material and essential oil, of course. You can have these adverse reactions, which we've pretty much covered. Is it safe to diffuse around kids and infants? This is probably one of the most commonly asked questions, and certainly a concern if you're a parent. So is it safe to diffuse around kids? What do we mean about, what age is a kid? This is my son, Soren, by the way, but that was 14 years ago. Kids, yes. I often will say 5 and above. You'll see 7 and above. For a long time, I followed Waldorf's stages of development. So it would be like every 7 years. So 7 and above, adult, pretty much what you would be diffusing around adults. 7 and below, there might just be specific essential oils you might not want to diffuse around them, like eucalyptus globulus, or especially if it's close to them. Otherwise, in general, it actually should be fine. With infants, however, there is a little bit more of a concern. I certainly would never recommend diffusing in an infant's room, particularly when the door is closed. However, you could diffuse in the room for an appropriate amount of time, be it anywhere from 10 to 30 minutes, depending on what type of diffuser, and then turn it off, wait, and then bring the infant in maybe, an hour later or half an hour later. This is fine. And then which oils? Well, certainly the very safe ones for infants: lavender, Roman chamomile, mandarin, sweet orange. If you don't like lavender, coriander seed, whole wood, the very, very gentle oils, and only for a short amount of time. Okay. Better, however, if you really want to diffuse around your infant, simply to use the hydrosols in an ultrasonic diffuser. Yeah. So that, to me, would be the safest. And think about why you want to be diffusing, around an infant. Maybe to help them sleep: lavender hydrosol in an ultrasonic diffuser, German chamomile hydrosol in the ultrasonic diffuser. Subtle aroma, not concentrated, but provides the therapeutic effect we're intending. Okay. This, I have to admit, I got off of plant therapy. I was doing some research over the last couple of weeks, and I'm putting it here, and I will put their web address, Plant Therapy. I'm very impressed with the company, by the way. So I want to talk about this list, actually, because in aromatherapy, I love the do not diffuse or do not ever use or the highly toxic essential oils, because most of these you'll never even see on the market, or would be very, very uncommon to have. So some of them, however, are common. And these would be the ones that, at least with plant therapy, they recommend not to diffuse under 10 years of age. And I want to point out a couple here. So clove, I mean, we don't tend to diffuse clove in the air anyways. Garlic, I mean, if you want to diffuse garlic, it's deathly anyways. No. Definitely don't diffuse garlic. Hyssop, it depends on the species. You can do hyssop, Hyssopus officinalis, a variety decumbens, versus this is in relation to Hyssopus officinalis. Lemon leaf, that's basically a petitgrain. Lemongrass, I wouldn't diffuse. Mei Chang. Oh, there's just some I wanted to talk about. Oh, Melissa. So I wanted to pull out Melissa of this list. Why? For a couple of reasons. Melissa is like some of these very expensive exotics, like rose or neroli, or trying to think of another floral that would, jasmine, which then you're dealing with a viscosity. Melissa, I wouldn't diffuse anyways, ever. Why? A, it's incredibly expensive. It's incredibly rare to get a true Melissa. And Melissa is so specific as an antiviral, but more for like dermal, like herpes simplex, both 1 and 2, or for anxiety and stress, where it would be much more beneficial in a personal inhaler than diffusing into the environment. But the cost alone, and both in plant material and of course the cost to us to actually purchase it, is great. So Melissa, I would just put on the do not diffuse period list. I'm trying to look at some of these other ones. Sage, I wouldn't diffuse. Yeah. All right. So these are just what they would recommend. Most, like I said, it looks like, oh, wow, there's a lot of essential oils one shouldn't diffuse, but really most of these aren't ones any of us would commonly have. I do also, actually, my eyes were drawn to oregano. I would not diffuse oregano into the environment ever under any circumstances for any age group. It's not needed. There are other far less potentially harmful to the mucous membranes to diffuse into the environment for there are other essential oils, rather, that one could select that don't have the potentially harmful effects of oregano. My nose is a little itchy. Okay. Is it safe to diffuse around pets? So the most simple answer is yes, with some clarification. So one, you do need to have good ventilation, and the cats, dogs, or whatever other animals you may have in your home need to be able to move around freely. I know there's a lot of concern around cats and how they metabolize things different. I'm a cat owner. This is my cat patients. I've had cats and dogs my entire aromatherapy career. At one point I had 4 cats, or I think we had 5 cats and 2 dogs. So, you know, all I can say is that, yes, it is safe to diffuse around them as long as they have, you know, can come in and out. It's not in an enclosed room. You haven't locked them in the room. The diffusion isn't going continuously. And some of the kind of toxic oils we wouldn't use anyways aren't used. So, you know, it's very common sense. They may or may not benefit from the aromatics if they like them. If they don't, most likely they're going to smell them. Even if we put like half a drop in ultrasonic diffuser, they're going to be able to pick it up, just because their sense of smell is so much stronger than ours. So I wouldn't suggest diffusing specifically for a pet, but it is safe to diffuse around a pet. You know, I've just had essential oils all over my home, all my career. All my cats and dogs have lived healthy, long lives. So I just don't have the concern that may get put out there in social media. I will say I'm not a big proponent of using essential oils on animals unless you're trained by an expert to do so. There's simply not a history of utilizing essential oils on any type of animal, except, of course, there's one teacher I really highly recommend, and she's in England doing a lot more online courses, and that's Caroline Ingraham. So I can give you a link if you'd like. Just email us and or you can Google her, Caroline Ingraham. A lot of her courses now are online, and the reason I recommend her is she just has a wealth of actual experience of working with a range of different animals, and I just think that's really important. So, okay. All right, we're on to, this is the last slide before I get to questions. So I want to address a couple of myths. So one of the myths is that heat alters the essential oil components. This is not the case. I mean, if you think alone about distillation and heat is the very way in which we got the essential oil components. So heat, especially like the heat, the type of heat being given off by a candle or the electric heater of a not the fan diffuser, of, you know, the like a candle diffuser, but the electric one, it's not significant. I would say a significant heat to essential oils would be those light bulb rings. You know, they used to, I don't even know if they still sell them. What a waste of essential oil. But, you know, there used to be these ceramic rings. You put them on a light bulb. When you turn the light on, you put the drops of essential oil onto the ceramic, and the heat from the light bulb disperses the aromatics. Not a good way, because the heat there is super hot. Do you know, if you think about, you turn a light on, a few minutes later you touch it, it's like it burns, right? It's too much heat. And it's not really so much that it has altered the components, which is possible at that extreme heat, so much as it diffuses them immediately. There's so much heat, it's just, they're gone. So it's not even worth using anything that has a lot of heat to it. And boiling water, do you know, you could say, is that too much heat? Maybe, maybe not. It's dispersing them into the air, and it's at least an affordable way. But the light bulb, definitely not. Are there an exact number of drops, like in stone, that one has to use, or it's crazy thinking. Probably the crazy thinking, there's some guidelines there. You wouldn't want to put like, an ounce of synergy in a nebulizing diffuser and diffuse it all at once. But in general, if you followed our instructions, or, in general, most companies put the correct information out, 1 to 4 mils in a nebulizer, you know, anywhere from 5 to 20 drops in an ultrasonic diffuser, um, 5 to 15 drops in a candle or electric diffuser, 3 drops, 3 to 5 drops to maybe up to 10 on a, necklace. So there's not exact where, you should ever be attacked for the number of drops you put in. And I will say there can be differences in sense of smell. So obviously we don't really need to address that with the nebulizing diffuser, but with the other types of diffusers, specifically the fan, the candle, and the electric diffusers, you might end up putting more because the person's sense of smell isn't very good, or your sense of smell isn't very good. Put a couple of extra drops, that's fine. Okay, I think that's an important thing. And then the other thing is, okay, let's talk. If you know anything about my work, I often do reflect a lot on what popular culture is saying about the different issues I'm working with. So, and one of them is that there's this kind of crazy talk sometimes about the fact that essential oils, if you're diffusing essential oils, you will, well, I'll take back the word crazy talk and just move it into let's talk. That you'll be impacting everyone in the room. And this is often used in relationship to teachers who decide to diffuse essential oils in a classroom. And then along comes this hysterical story out of some news channel. I can't remember. I was just visiting actually the news report about, kids were evacuated and they eventually found out that it was the essential oils the teacher was diffusing, and the teacher had left the diffuser on for so long, and the kids all got like whatever, there's, I don't know, the full report was still a little bit vague in my thinking. And so one incident like that should not dictate or ignite fear in the rest of us. We don't know what the quality of the oils she was using. We don't know which essential oils she was using. We don't know anything really about the person or the classroom or anything else that was happening other than this kind of hysterical reaction that you shouldn't diffuse publicly because everyone is affected. This does not stop schools from cleaning with incredibly toxic substances that our children are exposed to every day, from Clorox bleach to God knows what. So, but there's not hysteria around that. So I don't think we should get hysterical should a teacher responsibly choose to diffuse aromatics in their environment, and of course with the okay from the parents, with informed consent. At Waldorf, actually, they do it quite frequently, and they'll use simple things like citrus essential oils and lavender or rosemary, but it should be done always, if it is done with intention, with mindfulness, and with consent, of the people that are in the room. If you're diffusing at home, most likely everyone in your home knows you're diffusing, so of course it's impacting everyone in the room. If you're diffusing in your office, if you have your own office space, that's fine. If you're diffusing in an office with multiple people, that's not fine, right? There's a case in which you do want to be concerned about how it might affect everyone in the room. You know, I wish everyone would think about the perfume or the cologne that they wear to work, you know, and how it might impact us, or, you know, at work or on a plane or in a dining hall. You know, I've been to restaurants where someone has sat by me with so much perfume on, I couldn't even eat my food. So, you know, I want to be careful, or I guess my goal in even bringing this topic up is, you know, I'm really big into discernment and critical thinking, and not to get carried away when a crazy, you know, scare or fear or something has hit social media and is going all around, and then it makes us all feel like, ooh, she was diffusing in her classroom and she didn't blah 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 blah, or, you know, we don't know the circumstances. So, you know, there's no blanket statements. I'll say years ago, I was working with a psychologist who was working with inner city children. And she, on part of her research paper, she was in our scholars program, older woman, probably my age now, in her 50s, experienced practitioner. Anyhow, so she worked with troubled inner city children, and she decided to create a space utilizing essential oils. And one of the things that she did was, she had a bowl of potpourri, you know, on her desk. And in that potpourri, she put a kind of a custom synergy, a few drops of a synergy to calm the children she was seeing. And what she noticed, because this was, you know, like I said, a part of her paper, what she noticed was that the children she would see took less time to settle into the room, to sit into the chair that was available to them. It was a rocking chair, or to hold the stuffed bear that was in the rocking chair. It took them less time. Now, should she be attacked for doing that unbeknownst to the client? I don't think so. It allowed them to, but nobody would have ever questioned potpourri anyways, right? So she intended to create an environment for her patients that potentially supported them in getting to a place they could calm enough to begin sharing their story with her. And that to me is significant and important. And it was done with intention, awareness, and discernment. Same thing, I was working years ago in Boston with a psychopharmacologist who specialized in like acute and extreme chronic anxiety. And so I was working at the time with this woman, Emily, and we were going to different offices, exploring, you know, their interest in diffusing, like psychiatric offices, basically. And so we lucked out with this Dr. Bukowski, and he actually began, he was what was called, it's a psychopharmacologist. So he was really into looking at the pharmacokinetics and what could be beneficial to his clientele. But he would diffuse essential oils in his waiting room. You know, he would diffuse them in his waiting room for his clients. And he also found they were more relaxed and quicker to go into their story than when the diffuser wasn't in his waiting room. And he didn't have their permission. He didn't have, you know, signed consent forms. It was a part of his practice. I mean, most of his patients knew he was into aromatherapy. He was an avid client of mine, loved aromatherapy massage as well. So, you know, his clients knew, just like if you have an aromatherapy practice and you're diffusing essential oils, or you're an aromatherapy or herbal shop and you're diffusing essential oils, people aren't going to be surprised. Oh, you know, why is she diffusing in this room? So anyhow, just sometimes I'm like, whew, people get too reactive when prior to using both discernment and critical thinking about what really may have happened. So I do believe in consent, particularly in public school environments, usually in private schools, some private schools. Also, you need consent for sure. My thoughts always wander to Waldorf. Usually there's such a community there. They all are aware of what one another is doing anyway. So anyhow, I hope that makes sense. Okay. So now some questions, and I see that there's actually quite a few questions. So let me move to questions. Okay, you could, so lemongrass, Sonia, with regards to, you could diffuse lemongrass blended with other oils. Yes, you can. I think in my mind, I use lemongrass so much for cleaning. I'm like, oh, would never diffuse lemongrass. But you could, and just blend it down, yeah, with other kind of very mild, non-aldehyde rich essential oils. Anna, by good ventilation, what do you mean? So good ventilation, like in our home, we have floor vents. We keep the air circulating. We don't keep it on auto where it just comes on, whether the air conditioner is on or the heat's on. We actually keep it on pretty much all the time to help circulate the air. So it doesn't mean you have the window open. Good ventilation could just mean, you know, air is circulating. You could have fans. What would probably be easier to say poor ventilation would be an enclosed room that, you know, doesn't have, like, I'm looking at our bedroom doors or office doors, and there's always a little bit of a gap, you know. So good ventilation just means that the air is moving freely. So you do not have to open the windows when you're diffusing. So Ylang Ylang Complete. So Christina has asked me about Ylang Ylang Complete. I actually believe, and thank you for asking that, the Ylang Ylang Complete that they're referring to is when all the fractions of Ylang have been combined. And really that, when, if all the fractions are combined, it's actually called Kananga. And I'm not actually sure. Do you know, I need to research that. As to why that would be contraindicated for children under 10. And it could be that it might contain some very minute safrole or methyl eugenol. That's kind of the only logic. Even Ylang essential oil, the fractions could contain that. So that would be my only understanding as to why it would not be diffused. I would say under 7, they say under 10. All right, what precautions do we take diffusing in rooms where your pet may go? This is from Miriam. Just follow the directions on how much you should be diffusing. Be aware of your animal. Like, obviously, if they were not into whatever you were diffusing, they're going to let you know in some way, either by staying far away from the aroma, or coughing, you know, showing something. I mean, I just have not seen it in 30 years. Like I said, I've diffused and showered and bathed and dropped things on the floor and washed the floor and cleaned counters, and with, you know, 6 different animals. And unless you're doing it over a long period of time and in a very enclosed where no air is moving, you know, any room has holes, right? Gaps in the door, little bit of air coming in through the windows. You might have your vents open for your air conditioner, your heat, fans, room fans. There's always ways of diffusing and getting air circulating. So I'm not as concerned. I'm just terribly sorry, unless again you're diffusing at, you know, some crazy amount. I just don't have the concern with pets, and I obviously wouldn't put them really close. Like when my sickly dog is stuck in his bed, I'm going to put my diffuser right next to it. Do you know? I mean, it's just common sense, right? Common sense. Okay. All right. So, uh, so Mika asked me about scents that she gets, that some of the diffuser scents, and I'm assuming you're purchasing them as synergies, give her a headache or make her feel sick. To be perfectly honest, you know, some of the often when that happens, I think maybe it wasn't a pure oil. Maybe, you know, you shouldn't be using that particular oil. I mean, it's too strong for you. Stop using it. But my first reaction would be if you're feeling kind of sickly, diffusing a synergy you purchased, it could be some kind of additive that's making you feel that way. That's my personal opinion. Lisa asked me about the shelf life of essential oils. So different essential oils have different shelf life. The kind of conifer citrus oils have a shelf life of about 1 to 2 years. Most others have a shelf life anywhere from 2 to 5 years. And then viscous essential oils, which I don't recommend diffusing, like vetiver, patchouli, sandalwood, they actually have a shelf life of up to, you know, 5+ years. But the citrus oils and the conifers, or any monoterpene, if you're familiar with your chemistry, your very light essential oils, have a short shelf life, 1 to 2 years. Yeah, Isabel, about the heat, that simply is not true. Heat does not destroy the quality of the essential oil. And I remember years ago, it was actually in a journal, the International Journal of Aromatherapy. It was Bob Harris, who is Rhiannon Lewis's ex-husband, but they were putting out a lot of research on essential oils, and he wrote a whole piece, and part of that piece was that heat does not destroy the quality of the oil. Now, I'm not saying you want to leave your essential oils outside in the sun. That's not the type of heat we're talking about. We're talking about diffusion heat, and it's just simply not enough to alter or destroy the quality of the oil. It's not a true statement. So. All right, so Lori, what are the benefits of diffusing continuously for 4 to 6 hours without stopping, rather than diffusing for 30 minutes, turning off, and then diffusing again? So, and that's at 4 to 6 hours. By that point, you can have those adverse effects, which is to either have the opposite effect of what you were looking for. You were looking to calm, and you've become agitated, or you start to create neurological problems like a headache or nausea, or, and this depends really on the essential oil you've used, or you're beginning to irritate mucous membrane or the eyes. Again, that would only happen if you were getting really close to the mist. How often do you clean? You clean a diffuser after each use. So, I mean, if you're going to be putting the same essential oils in it, you could keep it for a while. You know, eventually it will get kind of a gummy, if you, like a candle diffuser, or gummy in the ultrasonic, or certainly in the nebulizer. So when it gets gummy, or in between the different synergies you want to use, you should always do a good clean. All right, I answered the question, why the difference in time between a nebulizer and an ultrasonic diffuser. This had to do with simply the strength of what's being emitted into the air. So with a nebulizing diffuser, you're getting pure essential oil molecules in the air. With an ultrasonic diffuser, you're getting a cool mist that has a water molecule as well. So, you know, you could always use it in the same way as a nebulizer. Really, it's just, you don't need to run it for a very long time. It could be 10 minutes, it could be 15 minutes. You know, it varies. There's no, it must be 10 minutes only. But I would definitely, I personally use the nebulizer 10-15 minutes off. Couple hours later, 10-15 minutes off. Do you know, you just really don't need it to be diffusing a lot. Okay. So Evie says she has a diffuser. It has a timer that runs 10 minutes on, 10 minutes off, and shuts off after 4 hours. That would be fine. It's a, is it an, oh, so it's a nebulizer. That, you know, could be fine. Depends, I guess, too. The answer would be, what's the purpose? What's your intention? What are you hoping to accomplish? Do you feel the benefits by leaving it on over a 4-hour period? I mean, you know, I would do a little bit of exploring. I don't see that it's a great problem. Maybe unnecessary. To clean, so somebody asked if they can use vinegar to clean. Yes, you can use vinegar, and thank you for bringing that up. So why is a plug-in diffuser not active? I'll say, I mean, first of all, I wouldn't even recommend using them, but if you are, I guess some of those plug-in diffusers have a fan, so they're putting it, so it could be active, but to me, it's and it's heating. It's not very powerful. I mean, maybe, I mean, the Glade plugins are powerful, but mostly because of the fragrance that's put into them, which is just not good. But yeah, I'll have a think about that. I have some resistance to say that's an active way of diffusing, but they can be, I guess they can scent a room like the bathroom or something. Yes, there's going to be a replay. Let me see. Are there any other questions? Okay. This is such great questions. So, okay, some of these we've addressed. So someone has asked, so you have to know, I do not always agree with the industry or whatever seems to be kind of the norm of the industry. And I also, you know, and some of that not agreeing, comes from discernment and critical thinking. Some just simply comes from 30 years of being an avid user of essential oils. So do you need, this is a great question from Veronica, although off topic a little bit, do you need to be concerned about using an emulsifier in an aromatic spritzer? And so I say no. And why? Because if you've made an aromatic spritzer, 1, you're going to be shaking it, 2, spray it in the environment, and usually you're going to use it up within hopefully 2 to 3 months, right? So I do not, I think all of these, you know, times that a solubilizer might be indicated, in aromatic spritzers would not be high on my priority list. Just shake them, spritz them into the environment. You know, if you're going to have it sitting around for months on end, of course you're going to want to change the water, or begin by using distilled water. You know, because it's using tap water, some problems with bacteria or whatever fungi growing in the water could happen. So if that's the concern, but otherwise, you know, if you're manufacturing a product line, maybe put emulsifier in there or solubilizer, but it's entirely up to you. What do I think about diffusing in small areas like a car? Yes, you can diffuse. I know there's a different diffusers you can use for your car now, be it ones that plug into what used to be the cigarette lighter. They now you can plug them in there and it causes heat and will emit the aroma. Yeah, for sure. Road rage could be really helpful. Okay, so shelf life for synergies and oils, it depends on the oils. Like I said, the conifer monoterpene rich ones have a shorter shelf life, 1 to 2 years. Right. With regards to our timing, do you know why we measure or have differences in our timing for different diffusers? It's really just based on the intensity of the aroma, and the intensity of an aroma is can be very personal. You know, it all depends on our sense of smell, how strong our sense of smell is, our age, whether we're going through menopause or whether we're pregnant. Do you know, I mean, there's so many factors about our individual sensitivity to aromas. You know, I can walk into a room and I'm like, what is that aroma? Something's not right. And no one else is smelling it, but I'm like, something is off in this room, you know, and I play the smell detective. Others, they're like, I don't even smell anything. What is it? So, you know, it really depends on who are you diffusing for? What are you diffusing for? Your goals, you know, how long, which type of diffuser are you using? Okay. Yeah, if the timer is set on a diffuser to continuously diffuse for 1 to 3 hours, you know, I would practice some control over that. Ooh, this is a good question. Diffusing around birds. I'm sorry, I don't actually have an answer. Yeah, I'll have to look for an answer for that one. I'm not sure. The oil I was talking about using the nebulizer for this clinical treatment of very old lung congestion was inula graveolens. I do recommend, if you're going to use the nebulizer that way, that you have, or at least respect that you get aromatherapy training. Okay. So those were the questions that I found to answer. And now, if you're still on with us, either later today or tomorrow morning, make sure you check your email. Make sure it doesn't go to spam, because we've created a booklet all about diffusing, and that's why I'm not actually going to go through a lot of recipes right now, because our new e-booklet will have numerous recipes along with the essential oils and much of the information that was covered during this class. We may even add in some of the questions, which were very good. Thank you. And then, like I said, we have created a short series of videos. I'm all into like teaching and increasing our video content for all of our courses, and I'm having just tons of fun, to be perfectly honest. So I have created a series from just doing a diffusing, you know, putting it together and doing it, or to cleaning the diffuser. And then, of course, this recording will also be there. So just a heads up, you're going to get these bonuses first for signing up for this class before we release it to the general public or everyone. Okay. So I do want to thank you for attending this class. It was a true delight to kind of reconnect with diffusing. Again, especially now we're going into the autumn months, and if there's ever a good time to diffuse, it's going to be the autumn and winter months. I'm not a big diffuser, say, in the summer months. That's mostly probably because I'm outside all the time, but for sure, come autumn and winter, the diffuser's on with respiratory enhancing essential oils, immune enhancing and stress relieving essential oils. And certainly this year, 2020, they can be a real service, like I said, between mental health issues or just to simply to support respiratory health and immunity, can play a really important and vital role this year. So, okay. So thank you for attending. If you do have further questions, please feel free to email us at info@aromaticstudies.com.